Sasha Wallace. It is Sasha Wallace swimming towards the finish line.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. LaKendra Redd-Smith, Health Sector Director for Project Transition under the leadership of Dr. Joaquin Wallace. Welcome back to our interview series where we interview high-performing athletes and we have conversations about their athletic journeys and their transitions into their careers. Here today we have with us NCAA champion, two-time Pac-12 champion of many other things, Sasha Wallace. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. I did my best to introduce you. So if you don't mind, would you introduce yourself to the guests and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Sasha. I went to the University of Oregon where I received my NCAA title in the 60-meter hurdles. I am also a Pac-12 champion in the 100-meter hurdles, 9-time All-American, and I am from the Bay Area. I believe I probably have about 6 state titles, and now I am post-professional track athlete, and I am starting a career in medicine in hopes of becoming a physician.
Good deal. That sounds like a lot. So how about we start from the beginning? Do you mind telling us about your formative years in track and how you got to Oregon?
So, like I said, I was born in the Bay Area. I ran track with a youth team, Coach Pittman in Oakland. It's called 3M. When we were trained under him, it wasn't really a specialty event. We kind of all did all the events, which I think is super useful when you're young. So you can kind of be exposed to different events. I hurdled, I jumped. I think I threw a little, but I was definitely on a lot of relays. But I think I excelled the most in the 400, which people don't really even realize because I hurdled. What I got my scholarship in college was hurdling and jumping. So I was a quarter miler. I think it was a lot more natural to me. My older sister did the 400, so it was kind of like something I want to say I fell into. And then from there, I went to high school in Holy Names, and it was an all-girls school. There was no girls on the track team. I remember it was me and my friend Courtney, team of 2 people. And then we got to our sophomore, junior year of high school, and we got a friend group, and we had a team of probably 6, and it was so exciting for us because we had a relay, and we were able to do the 4x1 and the 4x4. And I was able to go to state in the hurdles, and I jumped where I got my state titles, and then transferred to Castro Valley. Most of my senior year was involved with doing visits at colleges. And then it led me to choosing Oregon ultimately. I wanted to stay in the Pac-12. That was like the big deciding factor. And I wanted the head coach to coach my event. The head coach was a jumps coach. That's kind of what I wanted. And I wanted the head coach to be someone of color. So that was really kind of what went into my decision making and choosing Oregon. Loved it. You know, I have so many memories from that program. We won a lot of titles. It was a good experience overall. It was a very chill environment, and I'm happy I chose it.
That's awesome. We interviewed Miss White, Olympic medalist, right? And in her story, she talks about joining the track team and not having a track. From my understanding, you were kind of in a similar situation. How are you competitive in a space where you don't have all the resources? So if you don't mind, would you elaborate on that situation and overcoming that obstacle?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. My early on exposure to track with 3M, like in my young youth, it was very structured. The coach, literally at the time, he was the captain of a police department, just super kind of like militant, but to the point, he just really instilled what it took to be competitive, like what a week's worth of training looked like, what commitment looked like, and he held us accountable. And so I think going into high school, I kind of already knew the steps that I needed to take in order for me to get to be like this competitive athlete. Now, I was young, obviously, 15, 16. I don't know what it takes to build a team. I don't know, we didn't even have a coach at the time. I think me just sharing my goals with my parents and letting them know, hey, this is what I want to do. I have a couple friends, we really want to go to this track meet in LA. We really want to be a part of this track meet meet, or this invitational rather, they kind of were able to push that forward. I always look back and it's just like, me and my friend, we were just like kind of marketing, like, be on this team with us, it would be really fun. I don't know what got us into that. I think it was just our drive for the sport. It was such a small community, it being an all-girls school. We were just very comfortable to do that, I think. And I had a club coach in the summer and he was open to being the head coach, which was super cool. And then it was funny because we literally had to drive 20 minutes from the high school to the track. So that first 2 years, it just I was competitive on the track, but just helping build a team that literally was non-existent to like something. It just was like, okay, I think I know what it takes to be competitive off the track. I was really young, but I kind of think about that as I'm older. Like, okay, I kind of built a team. I can really do anything I want to do.
What skills do you think you developed in that moment that were very pertinent to your success in the workplace now?
Yeah, I think in that moment, I hate to even say this word, like more of like a visionary. I was thinking about what could be, right? And so working towards that. I don't want to say I was living more in the future than in the present. I think that's really what kind of the skill set I had. And I was just kind of like honing into that, like, hey, it could be this. And I think I was always referencing what my youth team looked like, right? Because we would go to Junior Olympics, we would travel, and I just kind of knew what it took to win. Now, I knew at the high school, like, the girls weren't really as involved. Like, they didn't like track as much as I may have liked track, but they were just more so into the team. And that's when I just realized it doesn't really matter the skill set people have. It's just the commitment to just seeing something build. And, that was something that I think I kind of instill now, that support of having the people around you can help you get to that end goal. And as long as you have that commitment, that's really all that matters.
So do you think it's fair to say that in the moment it's okay not to necessarily recognize those skills, but you can absolutely identify them in hindsight?
I think so, because in the moment, people just really want to be a part of something and they just want to be involved in a cause. And I think also you can develop skills, right? A lot of times you start out with something that you don't even know, what looks like or exists. And when you're involved in that process with people, you develop skills, you learn skills, and you can walk away and you're like, oh, wow, I learned this from that. And so, yeah, I think in the moment you can have it or not have it, but it's just what you're willing to allow people to help develop in you. So I can just really compare it to my journey. I don't know. I think I just was very unique, right? In the sense that my dad was a college coach, a college women's coach. So I think I always kind of knew what I wanted in a coach. And I was very specific in what I wanted to receive from the program, what environment I wanted. So I think going into any recruiting process, have an idea, a sense of what you are trying to get from the program. Because if you go on these recruiting visits and you don't have that, they're going to tell you what is important to you. They're going to tell you how they utilize you. And I think it's really easy for kids to kind of just get off track with that, because at the end of the day, they need you. And going into mine, my recruiting visits, I just always was very focused in that. Okay, I'm not talking to any coaches or programs that does not have a person of color. That was just it doesn't matter how good the program is. I just needed to make sure I identify with someone that way. And there was a lot of programs that didn't have that. They could come out and talk and, meet us, but I was never gonna even step foot on that campus because that was a value that was important to me. And so having just kind of a plan in place, and you're so young and kids don't even realize how much thought you have to put into that. But I really do think that helps people just navigate the process, because it can be overwhelming. Just try to have some joy in it, because a lot of times it may not happen for you like that again as you get older. So just try to enjoy the process.
It's interesting that it seems like you enjoy jumping more than you enjoy the hurdles, but everybody knows you for hurdle. So how do you curtail your passions for things you like versus things you're actually more successful at?
I would say I was definitely more into triple jump. I kind of like enjoyed it. I had more fun with it. It came more natural. I didn't really focus on a lot of jumping until I was in high school. And once I did that, I just enjoyed it so much. I don't know why, but I think it just was like the natural thing. With hurdles, going to college, I realized how much of a business it was. The head coach, was a triple jump coach. And my coach from high school also was getting recruited at the same time as me, but he ended up being on the coaching staff at Oregon. And I had a lot of success in hurdles. And so I think being a part of a program that just really put winning national championships on the forefront, the head coach said, hey, I have no problem with you doing whatever event you want to do, but at the end of the day, you have to do an event that scores and that gets you into the finals. And it was hard to hear the 18, 19-year-old girl because I want to have fun, that's not really what I was being recruited for. But it definitely took a turn my junior year. And I just had to realize it was nothing personal because at the end of the day, track is an individual sport. But that's when I realized how much I really was invested in my team. And I just really enjoy winning things with them. And so if I needed to hurdle to do that, I had to do that. There was a lot of people across the team that did events that they did not want to do. And I thought it was me, but it was everyone. So I think we all just kind of did what we had to do to win. And if that meant, hurdling 3 times at a track meet, that was my way of contributing. And looking back, I do not regret it at all. I went there for titles to get titles and I got that.
After you won that race, one of those people that was holding that microphone asked a question. I don't remember the question, but in your response, you talked about your dad instilling in you this concept of increment growth.
Oh, yes.
Do you mind expounding on that concept for us? What is increment growth and why does it matter?
Well, how he always used to phrase it is, Sasha, if you were to win your freshman year, how would that benefit you? If you were to get it all the titles your freshman year, just imagine the pressure. It would be sophomore, junior, and senior, right? That's a lot of pressure, especially on someone who's young. So I would much rather, or you would much rather have incremental growth working towards that title or championship, because during that incremental growth, you're learning more about the journey and you're learning really kind of just more about yourself. I didn't know what he meant then because when he was telling me this, I was a freshman and I had face planted on my face in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I wasn't really trying to hear none of that. But as I got to my senior year and look back, I'm like, okay, and I think my junior year, I had got runner up. So I went from face planting, I don't know why I'm saying that, but I failed freshman year to getting, I think, my sophomore year, and then second, my junior year, and then going into my senior year, I was like, okay, I have to win. What else is next? Working towards that. That's kind of my takeaway from what he would say, incremental growth. He just always kind of instilled that in all of us. And so looking back, I can see it. And it doesn't frustrate me anymore when I don't really get what I want in that moment, because it's a journey and it's a process. When people think of trauma or whatever, right? They think of something physically or something that's painful happening to you. But trauma, I learned that can happen on many levels. And so I think when I fell, that was in and of itself a traumatic experience, right? Like you said, I was really young and I'm on TV in front of hundreds of thousands of people. I didn't think anything of it. Even the way it happened, I just walked off. Looking back, I could have just walked through the line and I could have got a point in another All-American title. But I think the biggest part is I didn't know what trauma looked like, and I didn't know how mental health or therapy could aid me in that sense. And I think there's just like a really bad stigma just with like therapy and just like mental health. And I think with athletes especially, we're just taught to just perform without like having any feeling tied to like the performance. But when you train for something for 6 months and it's just like one race, there's so much that happens in 6 months, like traumatic with your body. Like, you know, you may not have finished a rep. That does something to your mind. Like, it's a lot that goes through your head. And I think with track, we just train for so long until we see a race. And so, like I said, my freshman to sophomore year, that was just a mental block that I just didn't even know what I was going through. And one of my friends at the time, she was seeing a therapist, and it was cool because it wasn't the therapist that is on our track team. It was a therapist it was called the SAC committee. So it was nice to have like to talk to someone who didn't have any ties to any sports. I don't even think she was really a sports fan. She was just listening to us, and she kind of assisted all the athletes, not just with track. So it was just a really unbiased like approach. And I just talked to her, and I remember always just talking to her about like what my goals were like after track and what I'm going through now at like 19, 20. Like I just wasn't able to make sense out of it, you know, and just like being a part of this program, like you take things personal. So she was able to like get me to view things in a different way. It's just nothing's personal. I think that's just the biggest thing that I just took away from her. It just really helped me get through like to my junior year and my senior and just keep improving. But I think it was just kind of like, okay, recognizing like, hey, you know, it's okay to talk to somebody, you know, especially someone like me who did an individual sport. Mental health is really important, and therapy is very important.
So what was the biggest lesson that track has taught you?
Oh, okay. It taught me a lot of things. I would say like the biggest thing that it's taught me is that what will be, especially with like me being in this medical journey. STEM is very competitive. You know, a lot of people are trying to interview for the same thing, or interview to get in the same school or what have you, or interview to be in the same specialty. But if it's for you, like you don't have to fight for it. It will find you, and you just have to have faith in that. You know, a lot of times people force things to happen, and it's just like, okay, but maybe that wasn't for you. Maybe you should look at it from a different lens, from a different approach, maybe tackle it a little differently. And I think that also kind of helps like with confidence, right? It's just like, okay, knowing that something's for me, it's just like, I'm confident that that's gonna be mine and I'm gonna have it. And delay is not denial. I think that's the biggest thing. The time frame, right? People want it when they want it. I think that goes back to incremental growth and just being patient. So it's taught me a lot, but that's my biggest takeaway with track, and I'm grateful for it.
Do you have any nuggets that you would like to leave for our audience?
Well, I think my biggest one is just patience, right? Trust the process. I always just go by delays, not denial. You know, at the end of the day, like what's for you will find you. You don't have to fight for anything. You know, still work hard, but you know, the things that were made for me, it kind of just fell right in my lap. Like it was nothing that I had to fight for. It was meant for me to have. So if people can just trust the process in that and just be confident in yourself, you know, have conversations with yourself. What do you want? What's your motivation? And I think things will be smooth for you.
Thank you for that great advice, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to interview with us today. I am Dr. Lakendra Red Smith. She is Sasha Wallace. We are Project Transition. Be sure to check us out on our socials. Also check us out on our website at ptransition.org, and follow Sasha on her socials as well. Again, thank you all for listening.
Thank you.